going to turn to the charts now to see what is in store for Q4. Chartmaster Carter Worth has not one, not two, but 5 different ways the end of the year could play out. He's over at the Plasma to break it down. Carter.
Well, of course, there could be 50, right? But you have to limit the number. And so every year, and this is the 13th year, we have what's called choose your own adventure, which is not so much picking how the market ends, but the trajectory traveled in Q4. So here is a weekly bar chart, meaning every bar is a week for the past 2 years. And then I'm going to go through the 5 scenarios that were put out this morning in the report. So first, there's scenario number 1. The line is where we are now, which is that we back and fill here, as we've been doing, that there are no Washington woes, that earnings are presumptively good, or whatever it is that causes the market to break out, and that we do break out in October, drift higher November, December, and end the year at 3150, which would be up 25.7%. Not bad. We're up 19 and change right now. And I can tell you so far, we've got about 300 people who've replied, from largest long only to sort of beta neutral, dollar neutral players, and this has been a popular pick. Scenario number 2. In this instance, we have seasonal weakness, right? Maybe its earnings are disappointing, or maybe there are Washington woes. We sell off fairly aggressively, stabilize at 2750, and then have seasonal strength in December, late November, and we end up a little bit above where we are now. We closed at 2,900 plus minus today. We end up at 3,110, but again, not a bad year, up 20%. This was also very popular. Scenario number 3. We break out fairly substantially here, as was the case in scenario 1, earnings or what have you. But then people sell into that strength, and we actually fade for most of November, December, and end around exactly where we are now, 2980, for up 19% on the year. Now 2 more. They're the exact same conclusion, 2650, but totally different trajectories. In this scenario, we are down hard here in October. We're backing and filling a bit in November, and then we plunge again as low as 2400 and have a few weeks of strength ending at 2650. Now keep in mind, to get down to 2400, that'd be about a 19% sell-off, but we end the year up 5.7 at 2650. And then the final scenario was basically we just drift, and we don't break out, but we don't have any sort of plunge, and we just sort of kind of slump into the end of the year, also ending at 2650. And of these, the betting is coming in fairly even. In certain years, over the past 13, it's been a huge preponderance of voters voting for 1 or 2 scenarios. And this year, it's almost spread out evenly.
A lot to digest.
Man, it's like I'm taking notes.
A lot of odysseys.
I had to follow along. Carter, come on over. Will will bring the chair in, as he always does.
Nicely done, Will.
Yeah.
Thank you, Will.
Will's great.
So, what's your choice?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm jumping the gun here because I do put in my vote, but then if I were to put in my vote to people who I'm asking to vote, that might bias them. So I usually don't say that.
So we'll never know.
Let me remind you, I think you yourself have voted in years past, so I would encourage you to do that because you got the report as well. So please put in your vote. My hunch is that we're not going to do anything spectacular. No big breakout. And that it's either a lot of chopping back and fill or something unhappy, that iceberg maybe you're talking about, is a little closer to the boat than would be expected.
So either flat or a drawdown like last year.
3 or 6, sounds like, if I'm scoring at home.
There is no 6. There were 5. Where did you get 6? Rich got 3 cuts.
2 or 5. There's 6
sharks. I've spent a little too much time at sea. I'm a little bit groggy. Let's go 2 and 5.
Thank you. You can make a 6.
Well, I did.
You just created a 6.
Could be 6.
Sorry.
Okay, in the scenario in which we're just sort of choppy for the rest of the year, what kinds of sectors will do the best in that environment?
So the real risk to the market is not so much that tech gives way, because that's kind of happening. It's that the hope for recovery in industrials, financials doesn't stick, right? Because that's what people are hanging on. If and as that happens, I don't see how you can progress. That would be either more churn, or if you have a simultaneous giving back of the gains from industrials, financial, other value names as tech continues to slump, then you've got lower prices generally. And
in the scenario in which there is a major drawdown of 20% or so, as you outlined,
that would have to be news related, which is to say you get a lot of FedEx, Carnival Cruise type earnings misses, or there's something really unhappy, independent of your politics, for the market because of what goes on.
But I mean, all sectors would would do poor. There wouldn't be like a
utilities
Rose plying the fingers off of her lover.
Yes,
you know,
yes, exactly.
On the, on the
I am getting a visual right there.
Right, I mean, that was a memorable scene
So
in Titanic.
think about it. Utilities were down in December of 18. Defensive things act better even if they go down.
What do you think of these scenarios?
I paid attention.
Are you following?
I did. No, I took copious notes here. And in my opinion, given what's happened, I think Odyssey 2.
Odyssey number 2
makes the most sense. A move down, I believe, to 2750 or so. You mentioned close the year right around where we are now. And if you think about it, that's somewhat logical. We're coming into earnings.
Right.
Maybe they disappoint. Catalyst for the sell-off. Pete had mentioned the impeachment. Maybe this China deal doesn't get done. But the president, who is laser focused on the market, I think towards year end will say or do something that gets us that year end rally, which is why, in my small mind, Odyssey 2 makes the most.
And Grasso, to your point, I mean, it's very hard to get. I mean, to get a December like that and then get another December this year. That's low odds.
So I'm going to go with Odyssey number 1, 3150. And I think that even if you get that drawdown with impeachment, you don't get a conviction. So either one is going to be a buyable event because you just don't have the votes for a conviction in the Senate. So either one of them is buyable. You're not going to get a repeat in December. 3150, Odyssey number 1.
Do you get Odyssey 1, though? Do you have to have a deal done to get Odyssey 1?
No, I think right
so
now.
It's just the impeachment.
Right now, you have impeachment. To the layperson, no one understands what this is. It sounds horrific. Everyone sits on their hands, doesn't do anything, and then the closer you get to actually the day of reckoning never comes.
I mean, it would be a 6% gain for the quarter if you go 1929 to present. All Q4 returns about 2.5%. It's typically good, but that would be very good.
Yeah. So you're 6.
Well, no, I'm not 6 at all. 6 obviously, as we said, doesn't exist. And Guy called me on. But 5 would be like wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I mean, that would be just, it's not happening. 1975, Gordon Lightfoot. I think it's actually number 3. I had to look and write him down because I got him wrong 2 times already. But number 3 to me is one where even today we learned that basically Fed pricing or expectations on how many cuts we get this year has gone from almost 2 guaranteed to maybe we don't even get any. I think between that and where you start to see political positioning scare people, I don't think you're going to see any major changes. But to the extent that the market is not priced in any competition from the other side of the aisle for the White House next year, I think that gets you to a place where you're somewhere around 2,800 or so it says on number 3, Odyssey.
I'm looking at Odyssey 3 as well. The reason I do that, I don't think we get a trade deal. But I think we get a lot closer, and I think we start to get a little bit more negotiation. I still stand by this, and Dan and I had it last week. We went at it pretty good. But I look at what's going on in China. I still think the pressure's more on them than it is on us, and because of that, I think we get progress on a deal. I don't know that we get a deal, but I think that lifts this thing up.
All right, Carter, thank you.
Did Carter tell us what his pick was?
He can't.
He can't. He said he hasn't voted. We all voted on the bowl.
But it's a broader survey.
I'd rather bet down than up without putting my vote.
Yeah. All right.